Okay. So before I start drawing, I usually try to get an idea for myself. What is this kind of a guy? What is he? Of course, what does he look like? But what's the character of this guy? I saw him a couple of times in the show, and he looks like a grumpy old man who has a terrible relationship with his son. Like maybe that's just for the show, or for the. But anyway, that's how he looks to me. So maybe before we start, it's nice to say something about what we see, right? Of course, there are many other pictures. One of the main thing, the most difficult thing before you start is choosing the right picture, right? Because there you already take a very important decision. Now, what I like about this photo is that it has kind of a dumb expression. Right? I like this dumb expression because I like drawing dumb expressions. Right? A challenge will be the white mustache, right? Kind of, because the more lines you put on a white mustache, the darker it gets. So we don't do that. Right? What I like also about this picture is the neck part. I like drawing necks, and especially in this part because he's doing a little bit like this, right? So we're going to try to do that. Don't focus too much on making a straight picture. Try always to get a little bit dynamics in your work. Okay? So in this case, I see a person. Of course, it's depending upon the photo, but it's a little bit. The photo is taken from below a little bit. Probably the camera person was smaller than the guy, maybe a girl. Right? So what's important in this photo? I see a small forehead. And I see a small part of the eyes and the nose. I would keep this small. I would make this bigger, of course, because it's the main feature of the guy. And this is important. I would like to have some neck and some shoulder part. So if you start drawing this guy, don't put him in the middle of your page. We start a little bit higher, right? Otherwise, you might have the problem that you make a terribly good face drawing. And then you say, oh my God, I have no space for the neck. Right? And that's terribly wrong in this case. Okay? So let's start. So what I said, a small forehead, just the general shape at the beginning. So this is my start, actually. Can you see that? Mm-hmm. Small brain part, a bigger jaw, kind of a strong neck, because this guy is doing a lot of hours of gym, right? I've seen pictures of this guy, an old guy with muscles like this. Fine for him. So, in this part, we go into dividing the face. And it's kind of nice. We try to focus everything on this part. We pull everything together around the kind of angry expression, short nose, and then we got a kind of big philtrum, which is emphasized by the mustache, right? I hope you have the same feeling as me that it's too early to draw. It will be better in the second drawing. So we try to block the shapes a little bit. And I think I start to recognize the guy in my drawing. That's what we're trying to do, right? See? So this part will be the mustache totally. The nose part will be really, really small because it's meaningless, actually. Right? It adds nothing to the drawing. Nor does it add something to the recognizability of the guy. So now we're going to the hair a little bit. Try, even if you're making a dirty sketch like I'm doing now, try to work immediately in the right direction. It means try to show how the hair is growing. You don't have to draw everything. Now it's a little bit hard to draw and talk at the same time. We're going to try doing that. Actually, we're just trying to build and get more and more details into this guy. You can see the position of the nose too. The nostrils are lower than the tip of the nose, also meaning that the photographer is smaller than the guy. So now I have the feeling that this is a little bit too narrow. It's getting a little bit, how should I say, not big enough. So I have to add here something to make the transition to the jawline here. Okay, about the white mustache. Try to show the shape line of the hairs by drawing, especially on the lower side, because there it's curving, right? So there we get some shadow parts. He's doing it his own way, but I try to think a little bit like a sculptor, and the shapes are really building up themselves, and then you get the right face. So therefore, I need a little bit of shading. At this point, it's interesting to try to find the lines for the neck. Another reason why this guy, and not only this guy, has a smaller brain part is, you may remember from your school books or art books that usually the eyes are in the middle of the head, of the face. That is so when you're kind of a young person or a young mature adult. When you get younger, when you get older, what's happening is your hair volume getting smaller and this part getting longer because of gravity, right? Other things move too, but we're not talking about that. This is why the eyes are moving up actually in the face. It was not meant for you, this remark. We all have the same issues. Now, some people are drawing probably with a refillable pencil. I used to do that too, but for sketching, actually I like to use a normal pencil because sometimes you can have kind of an expressive line if you put your pencil flat, right? These are things you cannot do actually with a refillable. What you can do too, if you want to try to get the hair more light, is to add some shade, right? What I do in my workshop sketches like this too is I have put a foamy under my page because it gives a little bit softer shadowing. Sometimes I remove it when I have to go darker because adding a foamy under your page limits your dark values. If you have any questions, fire. A big disadvantage of this kind of sketching is if you have an assignment or something and you're sketching this way, you have to redo, you have to put it on the light table or something because this is really dirty sketching. Everybody's fine? should forget the second ear. It's a little bit better visible than the other ear. So now we're going to get a little bit extra attention for the attitude, the posture of the total figure. And usually I add a little bit of the neck because these guys are building this element of their body. And so. But you have to pay attention that you don't make it too narrow. Because if you draw the neck, you are already seeing this muscle. I know the name of the muscle in Dutch. What's the name of this muscle? Can you help me? Whatever. So this part of the skin between the white parts of the mustache, actually you have to bring some shades because if you don't get a white mustache. It's all about color versus color contrast. You see color because there is another color against it. So if you want to have something white, you have to take care that the rest is not white. I'm a little bit messing up here. So, I think actually I have been drawing a little bit too messy, which means that I cannot really give much more details in this drawing without using the eraser, and I told you we're not going to do that. Anyway, it will bring us faster to the next drawing, and maybe I think we may have some more time. I took some pictures yesterday of members in the drawing room, so maybe we can add one of these members as a third drawing. Okay? What is nice in this drawing is you could try to, this guy has a black t-shirt, and if you are making a dark background because it's necessary to get the white hair and the white mustache, it's sometimes nice to fade or to make a transition between the background and the guy's t-shirt. Right? See? Then everything gets more together, you get more of a composition. Okay, so, okay, let's go to Nick Nolte. Okay? Okay, Nick Nolte. Everybody knows Nick Nolte? I saw him the first time.